Yusuf Atadesawe Kanda. Coming up this evening, the rate of abuse of drugs is increasingly becoming a destructive threat, with the latest being cocaine abuse in Ghana. On the back of TV3's latest feature by Godwin Asidiba titled Married to Cocaine, we'll talk to the experts on how to salvage the situation. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. Also, the 8 years of trial, the murder case of Adams Mahama has left more questions than answers after the verdict. We'll delve further into why the Attorney General is taking steps to review the jury system. "51 years after the death of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the CPP is raising questions about the vision, the future, and the prospects of Ghana's industrialization dream. Stay with us. We're live as well on DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. We're very interactive as always. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and Twitter. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
A leading member of the New Patriotic Party, Gabi Asare Ochredakon, has filed a lawsuit against former Environment Minister, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng. According to the writ of summons of Gabi Ochredakon's suit, the former chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining used words that are defamatory and libelous against his person. He is therefore demanding 10 million Ghana cedis in general damages. The lawyer is also requesting an apology and a retraction from the respected heart surgeon. The Economist Intelligence Unit's April report on Ghana has predicted the National Democratic Congress is likely to win both the presidential and parliamentary elections in the country in the 2024 polls. EIU noted the NDC therefore stands a strong chance of winning the 2024 presidential poll and securing a legislative majority. The unit cited poor governance and economic hardship as being largely the deciding factors for the expected voting patterns. EIU, however, noted that irrespective of who retains power, it expects Ghana's policy to continue to focus on ensuring macroeconomic stability. Lawyer Martin Pibu has added his voice to calls to take a relook at the country's jury system. Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, while reacting to the outcome of Adams Mahama murder case, which led to the mistrial of Gregory Afoko, bemoaned the severe challenges with the country's jury system.
We need to reform the jury system. We need to make it more functional and more modern, right? Some have even said it should be totally wiped out. I don't support it, no.
Oil marketing companies have been advised to maintain the current prices of all petroleum products in the first pricing window of the month of May. Prices of petroleum products are expected to see marginal increases following the depreciation of the cedi against the dollar. Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Namwa, also wants managers to strengthen policies aimed at stabilizing the local currency.
The question of whether gold for oil is having any impact, I'm afraid the numbers we have currently doesn't have much to do with the gold for oil figures on the market. These are purely international market dynamics at play. Demand, supply, you've seen prices decline. Unfortunately, the city cannot support it to give you the reductions you should have gotten at the pump.
You can find more on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. We're getting some disturbing information, but inhabitants in Boko, that's Boko, West Garu, Timpani, Binduri, and Pusiga districts in the Upper East region would now have to travel between 78 and 125 kilometers to transact any banking activity. Here's why. The Ghana Commercial Bank has suspended its operations in the Boko municipality due to the chieftaincy conflict in the area. Now, management of the commercial bank issued the communication through SMS to all its customers. Now, we're just getting this information because some of the customers in the area forwarded these messages to us. Now, it said the temporary closure of the Boko branch of GCB is due to the current insecurity situation in the area. Now, these are videos and the pictures we received earlier today of what's happening there. By the directive, management urged customers to visit any of the branches of GCB in the nearby communities or use the bank's alternative channels to transact their business. However, that's the management of the bank assured of bouncing back as soon as safety and security returns to the area. In fact, this message has sparked anxiety amongst the people, especially those who do business with this specific bank. But the frustrated customers are calling on the bank and the management to facilitate the opening of its branches at that's Boko West and Garu districts to reduce the burden of having to travel that long distance, especially with all the related insecurity situation as well. Now, the other bank in Boko that's also we're learning, the ADB, has long limited its banking activities in the area. So it's generated some concern amongst the residents there, and we understand that this particular GCB opposite the Boko Central Mosque, which is currently one of the hot spots in the municipality in terms of the issues there, has led to that decision by the bank. Meanwhile, the Upper East Regional Security Council has also reviewed the curfew imposed on the municipality, that's Boko, from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Now, that's been reduced, in fact, reviewed from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. effective today, Friday, April 28th. So that's the new review, from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. That is the information we're getting from the Upper East Regional Coordinating Council there. We'll keep an eye on this particular one, and certainly we'll be updating you. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Right after the break, we'll get into this rather disturbing news of the increasing levels of substance abuse amongst especially young people in this country. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Everybody knows Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know M-Punch Homeopathy Clinic. M-Punch Homeopathy Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what others are saying about M-Punch Homeopathy Clinic. Who will be careful M-Punch one?
Chesena me ankasa me period na say problems wom ntina ma wo ho idea ma me papa chesena nya asem ketewa na me coin point no mo hwe me modam no mo hwe bibia na so mo meduro me fire no ene ma won kra me nu kofro kwa na mkwan mu a eba
and everything yourself
me ma me no adwodwo eda ho a wontumi nante ene ne ko end point o mama nuru a ene ne ho idea watimi asori anante.
That's end point for you of Acrobato. Hello, hey ohwehwe what che
okay
a free bra wo di end point wa dance am me call you no me just say my name koye and pass one my nyina and imagine sabema na me be fear for there e ho na nyina jaresa you heard everything. I have secret. Endpoint is my secret. Endpoint homeopathic clinic. I'm free.
Di ajejwe nkrato yatum. At long last, Blue Jays Vodka makes a bummer kit. Blue Jays Vodka makes Numbi a fine.
This look, the guys are chilling with Blue Jays Vodka mix. Wow!
Numbi a tasty.
Can we join you guys? We are single. Yeah. I'm fine.
Blue Jays Vodka mix and we are dead. Taste to me a kama. Enjoy the unique taste of Blue Jays Vodka mix. Blue Jays Vodka mix Numbi a fine.
Blue Jays Vodka mix. Blue Jays Vodka mix.
Numuni nyansem won ton manimpa woni mfie don woche. Ensesa apemfo nom.
The fishing industry in Ghana is of prime importance to the economy and the well-being of the people. Sadly, this critical industry faces a hidden threat that threatens its very existence and survival. Join us as we shine our spotlight on the canker of illegal fishing, a practice that has devastated our marine resources, depleting our fish stock, leaving our fishermen with empty nets, fish processors struggling to survive, and our communities in dire straits. We delve into safe fish handling and processing, certification and licensing schemes. We focus our sharp lenses on child labor and trafficking in fishing communities to demand accountability and responsiveness from duty bearers. Join Three Foundations advocacy for Ghana's fisheries recovery through missions compelling and captivating advocacy. Keep an eye out on TV3. This program is under the auspices of the Feed the Future Ghana Fisheries Recovery Activity, funded by USAID, from the American people, live on News 360 and across all Media General social media platforms.
Last year was massive. This year, it will be the bomb. Tour du Ghana, the ultimate cycling event in the sports calendar, happening on the 20th and 21st of May 2023. Confirm your participation. Registration fee is 200 Ghana cedis for single riders, while 100 Ghana cedis goes for clubs with 10 riders or more. Your registration comes with personal accident cover, accommodation, feeding, and transportation. Start point of the tour is from the West Hills Mall, SCC to the Takrady Mall, and from Takrady to the Cape Coast Chapel Square. For more details, contact 0244-893758 or 0546 063 747. Tour du Ghana, happening on the 20th and 21st of May 2023. Be part of the excitement.
3FM Tour du Ghana is brought to you by Super Yogo.
Have you heard about contemporary art and what it entails?
Singing is a form of art. Crying is a form of art.
Today's artists work and respond to a global environment which is culturally diverse and technologically advancing. Make a date on the Kids Arena this Saturday as we speak to a contemporary artist who is doing amazingly well in his field of work and also get to know how working in his field is like. Kids Arena, this is us.
This is us.
Kids Arena. Show Saturdays at 10 a.m. on TV3. Don't miss it.
Life doesn't come with a manual, it comes with a mother. This Mother's Day, Sunday, May 14th, give your mama and any other mother figure in your life the gift of quality time as 92.7 3FM and TV3 presents a special event for all the amazing mothers out there. Join us for Dining with Mama, an exclusive Mother's Day lunch event in partnership with Tomeric Hotel. Come wine and dine your mom in style at Tomeric Hotel, East Legon, with a specially curated menu to excite your taste buds and amazing drinks. This event is the perfect opportunity to show your mother just how much you love and appreciate her. Win some prizes while enjoying great live band music, artist performances, and games on Sunday, May 14th at 1 p.m. Rate single 300 Ghana cedis and double 500 Ghana cedis. Tickets available at the front desk of TV3 and at Tomeric Hotel, East Legon. For reservations, call 0554 049778 or 0501 565638. Dining with Mama, celebrating the unbreakable bond between mothers and their children. This event is powered by TV3 and supported by 3FM 92.7.
Well, welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. We are live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. There's a World Drug Report 2021 which shows that globally the number of people using drugs is projected to increase by 11% by 2030 because of demographic changes alone. And low-income countries account for a lion's share of this rise, including Ghana. Now, in Ghana, the statistics show that more than 2,700 boys, and I'm going to put that on the screen right now so you follow me closely. This is what we got. Official statistics from a research that was put out. More than 2,700 boys and 3,100 girls smoke cigarettes. And this is a conservative figure. It could be actually more than what you're seeing. And we're going to find out because we have researchers and experts who have been looking into this with us in the studio. Each day, this is 2,700, 3,100 each day smoking cigarettes. And shisha, the use of shisha is also higher in girls than in boys. So you see that the use of cigarette is higher in girls than in boys, and then the shisha as well, probably due to the misconception that shisha is safer or as an alternative to cigarettes. In fact, what we found according to this research, shisha has similar or even worse health risk as smoking-related cancers such as heart and lung diseases. Also, research from 15 psychiatric hospitals in Ghana. Let's look at the next one. The psychiatric hospitals in Ghana has shown that about 70% of inmates in those hospitals were youth from junior high schools and tertiary institutions. Health professionals working at state-funded psychiatric hospitals estimate that about 10% of the inpatient and between 20 and 30% of outpatient cases were linked to substance abuse. That's the Ghana Drug Report 2020-2021. So let's put some reality to these statistics. That's why my colleague Godwin Asediba went into the slums to bring life to these statistics we have just seen. Take a look.
I am here in Odona Sahara, a community located on the banks of the Odo River in Accra, a fast-growing slum filled with mostly immigrants and a home to more than 16,000 people. But the growth has come with many businesses, including illegal ones. I had a hint. Crack cocaine is traded here, and so I set my cameras rolling. Drug sellers here barely come out in the open. They mostly operate in these makeshift structures, many of them call bunker. I got closer to these young men who are known as the main guys on the street. Clients craving for a fix come to them and they get sorted out. Despite its clandestine nature, the cocaine trade is booming. The mad rush for it here is unbelievable. Call it drug epidemic. "29-year-old Erica Addo, not her real name, had just bought the crack cocaine before we crossed paths. Wrapped in a tiny torn paper, she unwraps it and begins the process of getting high.
cocaine and kasanini.
Crack cocaine comes in the form of crystallized rocks and is a chemical variant of cocaine. When heated, the crack crystals create vapors that can be inhaled to create an extremely powerful short-term euphoric effect, just like how Erica is doing it.
Oh, me free some who say I say bibi aye I come me body nim by way nya ade bia aye.
It is considered the most addictive form of cocaine. At times, it is mixed with other drugs such as marijuana and heroin, called by many here as Thai. Erica has been addicted to all these drugs for close to 5 years.
Say it's the first thing I see and I feel to be understanding my baby.
She came from Sunyang in the southern part of Ghana to Accra to seek greener pastures. But due to the high rate of unemployment in the country, she was depressed and got hooked to drugs.
At times, I am at me, Akasakasa.
Now, Kasakasa.
Sir.
I was an embo who say be a borderman.
Without stone anymore.
Feelings of regret, remorse and guilt about not having the ability to control how things are happening in her life.
That's the evidence of how serious this situation is getting, and we put reality to the statistics we showed you. So you see a lot more girls in the substance abuse than boys, or female than male. Joining me in studio is my colleague who put this fantastic documentary together, Godwin Asedeba, and then also Richard Opari, who is a certified drug counselor and founder of Openness Organization, creating awareness of the dangers of drugs. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. So, Godwin, take a look at this, and I see that they have different names for these substances. With the interaction, which slum was this again?
Odona Sahara.
Odona Sahara.
Yes.
Tell me, apart from this young lady that we saw, how many of them did you see but not speak to over there?
There are quite a number of them. Let's say about 300.
300?
Around the place where they sell that particular drug. But I was able to speak to about 10 people.
I see. When you got there, what was the first thing that struck you, I mean, upon getting into the slum?
The nature of the people, how they were living their lives, how they looked. They looked as though they were not okay. They looked as though something was really bothering them. But when you get closer to them and you start to have a conversation with them, you get to know that these people are actually okay. There's nothing wrong with them. It is just something that is eating on their health, something that is making them behave the way they are not supposed to behave, which is making them, you know, looking unkept. Most of them are sick. They are not worried about taking care of themselves. The only thing they wake up and want to have inside their system is cocaine or something that can just give them a certain feeling, a certain stimulation, or take them to a certain high level just to make them feel okay.
I mean, how easy is the access to cocaine in this area that you went?
Very easy.
Very easy?
Very easy. So
wow.
The pushers come in, that's what they are called.
Pushers?
Yes. Others call them plugs.
Plugs?
Yes.
And pushers.
Here's my cocaine plug, here's my weed plug.
Oh, right.
Yes, so the pushers come in and you see them rushing for the crack cocaine like something else. It's just insane, if I should say. There's a mad rush for it there. So they come in the morning, they come in the afternoon, and they come in the evening. So the people are aware of the time that these particular drugs get into the community. So when it's getting to that particular time, most of them are doing the jobs that they're supposed to do to get the money. So immediately it comes in, you see them rushing for it.
Actually, so there's a time for delivery.
Yeah, there is.
Of the drugs.
There is.
Richard, I mean, I'm sure this is something that you have had to obviously deal with. I mean, what we're talking about is news to us, but I'm sure it's not news to you
exactly.
With the kind of people you've been interacting with. Tell me about some of the experiences that they share with you.
Okay, so let me start by saying that a lot of times when it happens like this, you know, and you see persons with substance use disorders, in fact, the language these days is actually changing because formerly they used to be referred to as, you know, drug addicts, junkies, and all of that. But these guys are persons with substance use disorders. In other words,
persons with substance use disorders. I see.
So let's first correct that. Okay. The reason is that nobody goes into using drugs, you know, by choice. You know, in fact, addiction is not a choice. You know, addiction is referred to or considered a disease, a sickness. That is why even on the street, they get up in the morning and say, Charlie, I dey take you, I won't go cure. Now, the word cure is not a banking word. It's not an insurance word. It's a medical word, which means that the person has a condition for which he wants to arrest or, you know, treat. So, I dey go cure. So, persons with substance use disorders are sick people. They are people with sickness. You know, let's first establish that.
Right.
And then also, let's get to understand that it is not by choice. I'm yet to find someone who comes to me and says that I started using drugs or started drinking with the intention of becoming an addict. No. So we all make wrong choices. And maybe that led to that, and eventually they got hooked to these substances, you know. So we look at it more of a situation where they need to get more support or help than be blamed or be considered as bad people, tagged as bad people, evil, and so on and so forth.
Probably because of what the drugs get them to do. I mean, the end product of the abuse of the drug ends up influencing the description that people give to them. And
of course, I agree. I agree that the drugs make you do things. It gets you to do things that are socially unacceptable and so on and so forth. So, yes, I agree. But then I as a counselor, and from where I sit and the kind of people that I interact with all the time, I want to see it as finding solutions more than, you know, labeling them and make them look like evil people, bad people, and so on and so forth.
What about the stigma?
For me, I'm more...
I think it's perfect, but I want us to also separate the various groups within this demographic of the persons who you talk about substance use disorders, because there are some people who actually are on some form of drugs by choice. Okay, I don't think you would say that all drug users or people who are using cocaine in this country are using it not by choice.
Permit me to school a little,
please.
Now, for example, I will use myself as an example. I had my brush with a substance use before. I had been on the street. I had my encounter before.
Right.
Now, it began by the fact that out of ignorance, you know, somebody introduced, oh, have a feel of this, you know, and then let me just have a feel of it. Had a feel of it by way of experimenting. Two things happen when you do experimentation. Either you enjoy the substance the first time, or you really suffer the use of it the first time. Now, when you suffer the use of it for the first time, maybe the first time you take you form it, get some very negative feeling, there's the possibility of not continuing.
All right.
But when you enjoy it for the first time, unfortunately, you are most likely to revisit the euphoria and all the kind of feeling or whatever you had, the benefit. Some people take it for the first time and they have the ability to do the things that we're not able to do or are not able to do, you know. So for that matter, they end up revisiting the euphoria, which is the experimentation, recreation. So they moved this time around from experimentation to recreation, where they occasionally go in, out there, and have a fix. Remember, there's no addiction at this point. Now, eventually, they get to abusing it. It becomes a daily thing, you know, because of maybe the satisfaction or benefit, so to speak, that they get out of the use of this thing. They are able to perform some task and so on and so forth that originally they wouldn't have been able to do. So at the stage of abuse, there's still not addiction. Then unfortunately, they cross the red light push, you know, and then eventually graduate to the stage of addiction.
Did you cross that red light?
I did. I did use drugs for several years. I mean, close to about 19 years.
19 years?
Yes, on the street of Accra.
On the street?
Yes, and I've been out of drugs for the past 20 years. Just this 3rd May, I celebrated my 20th, you know, recovery, you know,
congratulations to
whatever they call it.
And honestly, we're going to get into how you're able to break the cycle of abuse, which is extremely important for the people who are watching. But 19 years on all forms of drugs, see, cocaine, all of that.
Cocaine, heroin, marijuana, alcohol, cigarettes, name them. So I was a multiple user of drugs.
Wow.
And that is why, as a counselor and somebody who had had his brush on encounter with drugs, I'm looking at the solution.
Indeed.
More than the stigma, more than the labeling, and so on and so forth.
How old were you when you first had that?
Well, I started at the age of about 14.
14 years?
And my gateway drug was alcohol.
Oh, right.
And then back in school, you know, and then...
14 years would have been what? JSS or...?
Yeah, I'm an old school though, so somewhere around Form 2, Form 1, Form 2, elementary, and then eventually went to the secondary school. And then I was on alcohol when I was in secondary school. It wasn't something that I was doing quite often.
Okay.
But then I was doing alcohol. And then cigarette came in. And for me, it wasn't marijuana. Heroin came in. And then marijuana, and then cocaine, and other things followed. Okay? So I was quite very addicted to some of these substances. Wow. To the extent that you wouldn't have loved me at that time if you saw me. Okay? But here I sit today. And then I'm delivering.
Fantastic.
So it tells you that anybody at all out there has the capability of stopping, provided they are willing to do so.
Indeed. So there has to be the willingness to want to stop.
Yes, the willingness to want to stop.
Okay. Now, Gordon, at that slum, who was the youngest person you interacted with off camera?
He was 22.
22 years old.
He was 22 years old, and he didn't really want to speak to into the camera because he had his own reasons. He wasn't from Accra. He came to see greener pastures, and because he did not get what he was looking for, he ended up involving with other gangs, which actually introduced him to the abuse of crack cocaine. But for the lady that I spoke to in the documentary who wanted to share her story with me, she's actually 29 years.
29 years.
29 years. And she's been under the whole addiction for about 5 years when she also came to Accra from Sunyai to see greener pastures as well. So most of the people around that particular place are people who have traveled from different places to Accra to find jobs, but at the end not finding the jobs, and also, you know, delving into abusing some of those drugs just to take them off depression. You know, sometimes they don't have money for food, so when you take in the cocaine or the heroin to cool it down, it gives you some sort of satisfaction, so you don't feel like eating. So it can take you like from morning till afternoon before maybe, you know, if you're fortunate enough to get something into your system, fine. But if you don't and you get the drug into you, that is like their utmost satisfaction for them.
Let's take a look at the second part of the document briefly. We'll come back in studio because you spoke to somebody else in there.
Yes. Right.
Let's take a look.
It's the first thing I see, and I feel to be understanding my baby.
She came from Sunyai in the southern part of Ghana to Accra to seek greener pastures, but due to the high rate of unemployment in the country, she was depressed and got hooked to drugs.
At times, I'm at me, Akasa.
Now, Kasakasa.
Sir.
I was an embo who say be a border man.
Feelings of regret, remorse and guilt about not having the ability to control how things are happening in her life and knowing the risks of her decisions are her daily struggles.
29-year-old Erica Addo, not her real name, is one of the many females here in Sahara who are strongly addicted to this drug. This here is called Atai, and this is cocaine. It comes in a rocky form, very tiny but powerful. It's been, let's say, about 5 minutes after Erica has taken this, and she tells me she feels very strong and powerful. And in as much as she is addicted to this drug, it is gradually eating up her health. When you see Erica from a distance, you can clearly tell that she's not healthy. All her veins are very visible and her skin looks dry.
He left home when he was 12 after his father passed, and his mother abandoned him in Aguna Swedro in the central region of Ghana. A heady smell from the door drain, yet every day. Ishmael, also not his real name, wades through rubbish stuck in the stagnant water, broken glasses and toxic waste, collecting scrap metal and used plastic bottles to sell to be able to buy the drugs. He makes 10 to 15 Ghana cedis from selling a full sack like this one, and is able to sell 4 of that in a day. He's made some money today and is finally settled to satisfy his cravings.
Wait, and offer no rock.
This is called rock.
And cocaine and the ash no good one can say. Nam the rock no so.
After putting the cigarette ash on the smoking pipe, I then place the crack cocaine on it and smoke.
So this is another
young man.
You spoke to there. So he makes 10 to 15 cedis a day.
Yeah.
And he uses it to buy crack, or they say rock.
Rock.
What's rock?
The rock is the cocaine. You know, the cocaine comes in a powdered form,
right?
And then it's processed by using test tube, and then by carb, put together with water, and then there's a process it goes through, and then it becomes a rocky form. That's what we saw.
Oh, I see.
And that's where they put on the bunker. The instruments that you showed the last time. And then
I see. But let's talk about the recovery process. I mean, from the personal experience point of view, how did you break that 19-year cycle of drug abuse?
Okay, for me, I wouldn't recommend my process to anybody because in my time there wasn't any rehab center, so I had to do it in what they call the Kankwe way. The hard way.
Right.
I had tried severally and had my relapses on several occasions. But let me look at the current way by which it's quite appropriate to stop. There should be the willingness to stop. Reach that point where you say, I am sick and tired. Genuinely, that you really want to stop. Where nobody is forcing you, you are not under any, kind of thing. Okay. But you really want to stop. But, one cannot stop by himself because there's withdrawal in an attempt to stop, which we call the cold turkey on the street. And the withdrawal is quite very severe in the absence of the drug. You have these headaches, stomach cramp, hot, cold flashes, body weakness, joint pains, all happen simultaneously. And nothing takes that pain away except the same drug that created the problem. Right. So for that one, you need a medical intervention where you go through detoxification to be able to gain some physical strength and then be composed for the main treatment, which is the talk therapy or the counseling.
Okay.
So at that point, you go through a process. That's why we have a few rehabilitation centers around where people go into and then have their detox, and then now they are ready for the treatment.
But the cost element is there as well, which it's, from what I gather, is quite expensive going through this process.
Let me be very honest, very frank here, that treatment in a part of the world, Ghana, it's very, very, very expensive.
Give me a range. Say how much?
Okay, so I wouldn't want to mention any center.
Yes.
But we have some centers that charge between 4,500 and 500,000, 5,000 Ghana cedis.
To go through this process of...
Yes, 5,000 Ghana cedis.
Drug abuse?
Yes, for a minimum of 6 months. So when you put together, you need to have about 3,000 Ghana cedis to be able to do this rehab.
You mean 30,000 cedis?
30,000.
Because
5,000 times 6.
So 5,000 a month.
Yes.
For 6 months, for you to be completely out of this.
That is even the first stage. That is even the first stage. Yes, first stage. So when you are done with this 30,000, then For example, looking at the environment where you are coming from, you don't go back to the same environment. So there's a halfway home, or what we call the Oxford House, where you go stay. That place too, you need to also pay. It's just like a hostel or something.
Right.
Where you go from there to your work or maybe school or something. And, addiction, coming from addiction is a process. And it's not something that you just say, hooray, you are out of it overnight. It takes some time, some counseling, some principles that you have to follow. So, for example, as I sit here for 20 years that I haven't done drugs, I follow certain principles.
Share some.
Knowing very well, for example, I don't go to old places.
You don't go to
not old places, old using places.
Right.
If not for my NGO that goes out there to do advocacies, but even that one, I need to go with the team.
Okay.
So I don't personally go to old using places. I don't mingle with old using friends. And I don't play with old using instruments, such as the bunker you saw, such as the old, some glasses, some drinking glasses, drinking bottles, and things like that. I don't entertain them. So my life has
regimented.
A second, yes.
So it has extreme discipline. That's what I see. Yeah. And so, Godwin, did you meet any of them there who is willing to stop this? I mean, you see that there's that extreme sense of distress, and they want to really get out of this?
It's actually really touching when they tell you that I know what I am doing is not helping me and I want to stop, but I cannot stop. Because they've gotten to a point where the drug is now controlling their brain. And like you rightly mentioned, that it got to a point where when you were trying to recover, you get some mixed feelings, you feel cold and hot at a point. The guy mentioned that when he wakes up in a day and he doesn't have that in his system, that is exactly how he feels. So most of them actually told me that they will be willing to recover from the drug if they get the opportunity. But how to go about it is the problem. When I spoke to the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, those who were in charge of the Serenity Ward, they also made mention that people come in to seek counseling, but because they are unable to afford for the fee, they come in and they go back, and they go back to the drug because they are unable to afford for them to be taken through the whole counseling, which I think is really, really heartbreaking, and an attention should be brought to that for the Accra Psychiatric, which happens to be a government hospital or a government health facility. If people should come there to seek processes to recover from a certain drug or whatever thing that they are trying to see, I mean, the pay should be minimal. It should be something that they should be able to afford. But these government facilities are charging almost as how the private sector is charging.
There's not much of a difference. You don't get any reduced cost of treatment at the Accra. But you see, you look at it as well, and you cannot really blame them too, because they need to sustain the work there at the psychiatric hospital. So it goes back to government. What should be done? Finally,
it goes back to government. We are not here to blame anybody or shift blames.
Indeed.
We are here to really see how best everybody can come on board to help this particular situation. I'm sure that being on this particular field for some time now, governments, past and present, have done their very best. You know, Pantine, the establishment of Pantine Hospital and other, government hospitals have played a lot of roles, and NACOB also, have really done a lot of good job, introducing Colombo training where persons, experts or professionals go through training to be able to handle such situations.
But let's be honest. If we have to call on government to do more, it's not wrong.
Yes. So
that has to be done, because the last time we checked, the Anchorful Psychiatric Hospital, they were owing the caterers, and the caterers are taking the hospital to court, threatening that they're not going to cook for the inmates again. That's
where I'm coming.
Look at the one here in Accra, the Pantine. I visited where the nurses who work at Pantine stay. Very dilapidated area in a bushy place behind the Pantine Hospital itself. So we need to take psychiatry seriously in this country.
The situation at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital is equally dire. It's horrible. When you get to the places where most of those who are in a critical condition are kept, it's like a prison. You go there and the heat in there is like It's very strong. So the last time I went there, and that's actually a report that we are equally working on, and they really need attention.
Yeah, so what we are calling on government to do is to be able to do more, okay? We appreciate everything, but we're calling for more to be done, right? Okay. And then we're calling for the cost of treatment, you know, to be reduced because it's quite expensive. How many people can afford this amount that we have just mentioned?
Absolutely.
You know, and the rehabilitation centers are not there. Sometimes when they get full, when you go to Bantai, and sometimes the place is full, they are not able to take in persons that have even the money to be wanting to assess. So more rehabilitations must be, you know, built, and then the cost. For me, if you ask me for where I am coming from, the river in which I'm coming from, I'll recommend or ask that rehabilitation should equally be done like the SHS.
The free SHS.
Like the free SHS.
Rehabilitation should be put on.
It should be free.
National health insurance.
So people can walk in and have their treatment.
Right.
Okay? Because if we are looking at addiction as a disease and not a kind of some bad persons out there, you know, but they made wrong choices, yes, and they've been caught up in this addiction, we should give them the opportunity for them to come back and make the right decisions.
Great point. You know, yes, Godwin, finally.
There's just one concern that I want to raise before we go, because the assemblyman for that particular community who gave me the permission to speak to some of the people actually thought that I was coming in to tell a different story about how flooding is affecting the community and all of that. But he called me yesterday to tell me that the pushers are actually attacking him and threatening that they are not going to vote for him because we know that their elections will be coming in.
So we are pleading with him.
So we just want to let them know that it wasn't the assemblyman that brought us in.
Indeed.
It was a story that I had to follow up
It is,
on
and
myself.
it is for the greater good.
Exactly.
Emmanuel, before we go, and I want you to speak to somebody who is watching you right now, who hasn't developed or is struggling to develop the will to stop, based on your experience. Speak to that person, finally, before we go.
Well, so recovery is possible to start with. Every single person that is doing drugs today on the streets, you know, some people reach that point where they think that it is over. But first of all, recovery is possible. The mind must be made. That decision must be made. Unfortunately, we don't have the facilities enough to be able to contain, and the cost involved is also overwhelming. But then I'm sure that this particular discussion is going to get down where authorities or stakeholders are going to take it up and ensure that something is done about the situation. So guys out there, make up your mind. Recovery is possible, and let's see how best, you know, moving on, we'll be able to put ourselves together and then help the situation. But there's one thing that you should bear in mind, that recovery is possible. I've been there, and for 20 years, I'm no more.
Super. Richard Opare, certified drug counselor, founder of Opanest organization, creating awareness about the dangers of drug abuse in this country and beyond. Richard, I thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience with us. 19 years being on all forms of drugs, abusing all sorts of drugs. He's out of it. It's possible. And he's saying with all of that confidence. Godwin Asedeba, my colleague, went to the slums telling the story for the greater good. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Coming up next, the Attorney General, Godfrey Diabo-Adame, has bemoaned the severe challenges with the country's jury system. Get into it now. The Attorney General has been reacting to the outcome of a trial of Gregory Afoko, who has been acquitted by an Accra High Court following a hung jury. Take a look.
Gregory Afoko, the first accused in the murder of Adams Mahama, the former Upper East Regional Chairman of the NPP, is set for retrial at the Accra High Court following a hung decision by the 7-member jury. The second accused person, Asabke Alanggi, was sentenced to death by hanging. The verdict means the trial of Gregory Afoko is expected to start from scratch per the laws of Ghana. In a press statement issued Friday, April 28, 2023, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Godfred Yaboah-Dame, says the difference in the verdicts of the two accused persons in the Adams Mahama murder trial shows severe challenges in the country's jury system. According to the Attorney General, these challenges should not be allowed to fester, and he's taking steps to remedy the situation. Private legal practitioner Martin Pigbo has been explaining what a hung jury is.
The decision of the jury has not met the threshold or met the standard acceptable in law. It is the jury who are the judges. They will decide. So though you have a judge in the courtroom there, he is to guide them. So the law says that when it is murder, okay, capital offense like murder, it should be unanimous, okay? But if not, you can have 6-1. You can also have 5-2. That's the last. Anything apart from this, it's not a decision.
Just as the Attorney General, Martin Pigbo is also calling for a review of the laws.
We need to reform the jury system. We need to make it more functional and more modern, right? Some have even said it should be totally wiped out. I don't support it, no. We should help the jury a bit more. Even the way they sit in the court is a bit oppressive. You see, we should create more space. They should have desks. In the UK like this, they have a manual that teaches the judge how to help break down. So we also need that manual to guide them. So we need reforms in the jury system.
Well, April 27 marked the painful death of Ghana's first Prime Minister, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Now, the deposed president of Ghana and the first man to lead an African colony to independence after World War II. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was named co-president by President Sam Toure of Guinea-Conakry while in exile and died in Bucharest at age 62. And yesterday was exactly 51 years after the death of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The CPP laid a wreath at the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum to invoke the positive spirit of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Let's go on to Zoom quickly. Nana Akosua Frimpoma is chairperson of the Convention People's Party, CCP. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I'm sure Nkrumah set the foundation for industrialization, and beyond marking his death as CPP, should have a reflection of how Nkrumah will be reacting about the state of affairs now, is it not?
So let me make sure I have a handkerchief not too far from me, because if I'm not careful, I might burst into tears. Yes. The state that we find ourselves in today is not the best to write home about, maybe put it that way. It's quite disappointing, especially if you are someone that has really been a part of this whole process for some time. Those of us who, though we're young, saw a part of what it was earlier, and also saw, to some extent, the commitment of people that were part of the Convention People's Party. And so for those of us who really witnessed people on a personal basis, we find it quite disheartening to see what is going on today.
I see, but for the CPP, how are you leveraging on this and the Kwame Nkrumah factor to, as it were, put yourself together, reorganize ahead of the 2024 elections?
Currently, we are at a point where the Ghanaian youth clearly understands the situation now. Gone are those days, I strongly believe, where people just voted. If we look at the last patterns, the voting pattern of the last two elections, it is very clear that the Ghanaian is now of age in terms of putting issues at the center of their discussions. So I have a strong, I'm convinced that now that most of the youth need a change, have seen the need for a change, because they realized they've tested the two parties in a kind of sponsor. They've tested the two parties and they've realized that there's going nowhere. And for that reason, I strongly believe this is the time for the Convention People's Party, simply because the ideals and the policies of the Convention People's Party, even as it says in our current manifesto, is exactly what is going to take us to where we should have been. When our father Osajifo put their lives and everything on the line and told the invaders to leave this country, that we would be able to govern ourselves, that was exactly what they meant. Because they believed in us as human beings, created in the image of a supreme being, and that we've not been put in the wrong place. And so for that reason, we are all capable of doing what we know is right for ourselves, for our children and our grandchildren. And that even if we mismanage, we must be able to manage it ourselves. And yet today we sit here, and it looks like we completely forgot the management part and took over the mismanaged part. So if you ask me, if you look at the state of Ghana and the state of the youth, the state of the adult for that matter, me now, I say that all the women and young girls are now under the bed. It's like people are afraid of nothing. The men are now men academic. And man akoshem passy. And a mad time jump on teams in paying for me because they feel sense of desperation. We don't even know what to do now. So if you ask me, yes, this is the best time since this Fourth Republic that Ghanaians would give Ghana a real chance to develop.
I see.
Because within the First Republic, Ghanaians had the opportunity to take their destiny into their own hands. They had the opportunity to do what was right for themselves. And that is why within a very short time, we were able to build over 400 factories. Everything consumed, used in this country was produced from Ghana within a very short time. And yet today, we find ourselves in a different situation. Every single piece has been eaten by who? Currently, it has been eaten. And I believe that everything has been taken. We are going to have to chop everything a piece at a time.
Right on. And I thank you very much. Nana Akosua Frimpoma, appreciate your time. Chairperson of the Convention People's Party, CPP. Thank you. On behalf of the rest of the team, we thank you so much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. And join me tomorrow at 7 a.m. for Key Point on TV3 and 3FM. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a great weekend.
Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.